Hello chess friends and welcome to Raa7 Chess channel and welcome back to the World Blitz Chess Championship in 2021. So we have reached now the finals of the finals. We are now in the super final between Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Vachier-Lagrave. In the end, Vachier-Lagrave, Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Alireza Firouzja finished with the same point count, but we had again this which Magnus Carlsen called a stupid rule, in which only the best two players with the same point count but with better tiebreaks are moving up to the finals. And it's exactly what happened. Magnus Carlsen also in the rapid time chess World Chess Championship didn't manage to get it to the finals. Here in this super final, Alireza Firouzja didn't also get it to the finals. Okay, we'll talk about this rule in the future on my channel. I promised you that. I'll talk about these ideas about the rules in chess generally much more, but let's check out now what happened. We're now in the game 3 of the super event. The first two games ended in a draw, and now the additional rule was that they had to play until one player is winning. And here Vachier-Lagrave had the advantage because in the third game he had to play with the white pieces, because at the end of the tournament he had better also additional criteria against Jan-Krzysztof Duda, so that's why he could have played the third game with the white pieces. So let's check out now what happened. It was a beautiful game here played by both sides. So here Vachier-Lagrave opened with the move e4. We have e5 by Jan-Krzysztof Duda, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez is on the board. So we have now a6, the Murphy defense, bishop to a4, knight to f6, and here after move castling, bishop to e7, played by Duda. We have now the so-called closed Ruy Lopez. So d3, we have b5, kicking with the bishop to b3 is pretty standard stuff. And now after move d6, we have now the move a3. This move a3 is of course creating some breathing spaces for the bishop, because the bishop didn't get challenged with knight to a5, which would be also a natural idea. Then knight to a5, c5 would be, I think, the most common and most popular way here to proceed for black. So here in the continuation after move d6, as said, a3 by Vachier-Lagrave, castling, knight to c3, again taking over, taking the control of the d5 square. We have now here the move knight to b8, because even if this outpost happens now on d5, here Duda creates some spaces for the pawn, and then with c6 you can still kick away the knight and control your side of the board. So that's why a very important move. It is a strange move, but this maneuver knight to c6, knight to b8 is a common maneuver in Ruy Lopez game. So here we have bishop to d2, knight to d7, we have a5, a4, kicking the pawn away here from b5, and there is always this tension on the a file. If you don't react correctly, of course you could lose the rook here on the a file. So that's why here we have b4, and I liked here Vachier-Lagrave's approach, because he challenged the pawn, basically forced now Jan-Krzysztof Duda to push his pawn further. But when this pawn is pushed, then it can be also an object here of the attack. So here knight to d5, anyway played by Vachier-Lagrave. We have now a5, protecting the b4 pawn, and now comes this idea c3. This position they have played also in the first game, in which Jan-Krzysztof Duda managed to get a draw. Now after move c3, we have b takes c3, and now bishop to c3. And okay, maybe most of us would take here b takes c3, and then we'll maybe here with ideas to play the move d4, but here in the continuation bishop to c3 gives, I think, white a much more pleasant game when it comes to piece activity. The pieces would be then much better here in this particular continuation. Now still d4 is a possibility, but at least with this move you're liberating also the long diagonal for the dark bishop. So it's probably a part of your own playing style. Vachier-Lagrave is an open game player. He's not such a static player, so that's why bishop to c3 fits with his playing style. So here knight to c5, attacking the bishop. We have knight to f6, bishop to f6, and now bishop to d5. This is now a very annoying pawn to bishop to handle. This bishop will be very annoying through the whole game. Now in the continuation of the game here, rook to a7 was played by Jan-Krzysztof Duda, because we can notice also that the a5 pawn is hanging. So here the rook on a7 is of course really on a natural square, so that's why here black is already in some positional problems, and the relation is already much better for Vachier-Lagrave. Something went wrong here for Jan-Krzysztof Duda. He didn't compete in the correct way here on this long diagonal. He lost a couple of too many tempi. Now in the continuation queen to c2, here Vachier-Lagrave finishes the development and continues now his rook. So here bishop to g4, we have now this idea d4, we have e takes d4, knight to d4. You see the activity of white pieces is really great now, with ideas also to create this very annoying fork on c6. So that's why bishop to d7, knight to b5, attacking the rook, and here bishop to b5. A takes b5 creates now really a beautiful asymmetrical position, which I think favorizes the bishop pair, because the bishop don't like really static positions, don't like symmetrical pawn structure. So here in the continuation, after a takes b5, suddenly there is something going on, and we can notice now this bishop on d5 is paralyzing basically both of these rooks. This is the beauty of the bishop, and great technique here by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, because if you place the bishop on c6, then the rook cannot come on e8, and this rook cannot come into the game anyway. It cannot come on b7, and it cannot go here on a8. It cannot also come into the game through the squares a6. So here great Zugzwang sort of position, really paralyzing position here by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Really beautiful technique in the middle game stage, and we have to say this is Blitz chess, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave really sees beautiful paralyzing ideas here. So after a takes b5, we have bishop to c3. At least Duda is trying to get rid of the bishop pair. Now it's a bishop versus knight middle game, but with a slight advantage, of course, here for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, but because still with e5 we can kick away the key defenders of the d6, because the knight is perfectly fine, it's outposted, but we can now attack the defenders of the knight. We can play e5, then afterwards we can also play b6. So both of these pawns we can maybe kick away and then try to attack this knight on c5 further, because this knight is perfectly fine, but we want to use elements in order to attack this. So here in the continuation a4, because also the a5 pawn was hanging, so now queen to e3, queen to b8, and now bishop to c6, we have queen to b6, and now rook to d1. This is a beautiful move, because this move is not allowing here pardon me, Jan-Krzysztof Duda liberating idea, because knight to b3 is not working. You get queen to b6, c takes b6, and then rook to d6. So that's why, again, a beautiful paralyzing move here by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, never really allowing here this knight to breathe. So here in the continuation we have rook to b8, we have e5. As we said, we're getting rid of the key defenders of the knight. Beautiful technique. So knight to e6, we have now this idea, queen takes b6, rook to b6, and you see now after e takes d6, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has grabbed the pawn, which is really wild, and from this point on it should be probably completely winning endgame here for the French Grandmaster. So as I said, something went wrong. This outposted knight wasn't so powerful. We always evaluate this outpost by their possibility to hold the position like this. I think the knight on c5 wasn't so fixed. It could be attacked like this, so that's why Maxime Vachier-Lagrave realized his ideas, and he is through now. He can now open some files and diagonals. So here after c takes d6, rook to d6, there are now even, of course, some checkmate threats on the back rank. So we have now a3, b takes a3, rook to a3, g3, g6, and now rook to d7, getting now first every pieces into the game. And now it's time to simply push the pawn further, and also there are new opportunities, even as a long-term tactical plan, to play bishop to d5 and also attack here the f7 weakness. So we have knight to d8, bishop to d5, king to f8, and now rook from a to a7. Now this is too much of a tension here around the square f7, so you have to protect this pawn further. So that's why here first rook to d3 was played by Jan-Krzysztof Duda. Here in continuation we have king to g2, first improving the position of the king. We have king to g7, and now bishop to c4, kicking away the rook. We have rook takes d7, rook takes d7, but still again, it's a Zugzwang position here. The knight cannot move. You see, the rook cannot move. Whatever you do, you lose the piece or you lose the pawn on f7. There is this beautiful rule in chess which says the rule of two weaknesses. We have now a weakness on f7, but we have also weakness on d8. So this is probably enough even to win the game, although in many occasions maybe one pawn wouldn't be enough. But with these two weaknesses, this is now completely winning endgame here for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So king to f6, b6, pushing the pawn further. We have knight to e6. We have now here this idea b7. We have now g5. Of course, if you try something like knight to c5, then you get rook to f7, then we grab also this pawn. You will probably maybe even get somehow this pawn, but it doesn't matter. If you lose 2 or 3 of these pawns, then here again white is simply winning the endgame. So here g5, we have bishop to e6, king to e6, we have a rook to c7, we have now h5, we have king to f3, we have f5, and now h4. This was a beautiful move because with the move h4, this pawn gets deflected, and we can use now the f4 square in order to include the king into the game. So here in continuation, king to d6, rook to h7, we have a king, g takes h4, g takes h4, we have king to e5, king to e3. Again, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave is playing sort of a Zugzwang, waits a little bit, and now after rook to h5 and king to d5 in this position, Jan-Krzysztof Duda resigned, which means Maxim Vachier-Lagrave is the winner of the World Blitz Chess Championship in 2021. Congratulations, especially because of many facts. Maxim Vachier-Lagrave won his game in the last round against Magnus Carlsen. He played for the win, and I'm a little bit disappointed by Daniil Dubov's choice to go into fast draw against Anish Giri, because if, for instance, Daniil Dubov would have won the game against Anish Giri, I think he would be the best with the best tie breaks, and he would reach the finals for sure. I'm not sure why he played a fast draw against Anish Giri. We'll talk about the subject more also in the future on my YouTube chat channel, but so far, let's congratulate for Maxim Vachier-Lagrave for winning this beautiful tournament. And we have now Nodirbek Abdusattorov, really a surprise for winning the World Rapid Chess Championship, but now also Maxim Vachier-Lagrave for winning the Blitz Chess Championship, which is not surprise, we have to say it. I think Maxim Vachier-Lagrave has proven himself many times as really one of the best blitz players in the world. So again, congratulations, beautiful tournament it was. We'll talk about this tournament more in the future on my YouTube chat channel, but so far we wanted to cover, of course, the decisive game, and then afterwards we're going to analyze what went wrong for many players, who was playing well, who was not playing so well. So in the future on my channel we'll talk, as I said, much more about this very prestigious tournament. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I hope that you enjoyed my coverage. If you want to see some other games that we have analyzed before in this tournament, check out my link. Here's the playlist of the World Rapid and Blitz Chess Championship in 2021. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.